You've started to see the truth, the abuse, the patterns, the pain you've carried for far too long. Here you don't have to face it alone. Welcome to Braveheart Speak. This is a safe space for women to take their lives back, to reconnect and rediscover themselves, and embody bravery as we walk this path together.
Dear listeners, if you're new here, my name is Lucia, and I'm the founder of the Brave Women's Community Center and the host of Braveheart Speak. This mini episode exists for a very specific reason. While Braveheart Speak is a space where survivors share their stories, these shorter episodes are where I step out from behind the scenes and speak honestly about what it takes to build this work, emotionally, relationally, and internally. They're not polished. They're not scripted performances. They are reflections from inside my process. Because bravery doesn't always show up in the big moments, in public stories or courageous acts we can point to after the fact. Most of the bravery involved in this work happens quietly. It happens in doubt, in discomfort, in the decision to keep going when no one is clapping, when things feel unclear, and when old fears of mine get stirred. I share these mini episodes because I believe that kind of bravery deserves language too. And because if you're listening to this, perhaps there's a good chance you're practicing your own version of it, even if no one else sees it yet. In this mini episode, I want to let you in a little more on my process as I build the Brave Women's Community Center. I'm sharing this here on Braveheart Speak because it takes a lot of bravery for me to keep going and to not give up and to take one more step and then another every single day. And honestly, there are many mornings like this morning when I wake up and I don't feel brave at all. These are mornings when I want to stop. I want to throw my hands up and say, this is impossible. I'm getting nowhere. I'm nothing. Why did I think I could do something like this? Surely someone else could do it better. Surely someone is doing it better. I imagine people out there seeing me as silly, puny, an imposter. And some mornings, I wish the whole idea would just go away. And I wonder why it came to me at all. Why, of all people, would this be my assignment, my purpose? Is that true? Did I just make it up? On both sides of my extended family, when I was growing up, I was seen as a very quiet, passive person, not particularly smart, not a go-getter, just kind of extra. And that word extra has followed me my whole life. I've been thinking lately about what it means to be an extra in a movie. You're there, but no one is really looking at you. You take up space, but you don't matter to the story. You exist to make the stars stand out, to make the world look full, but no one ever asks who you are. And that's how I learned to see myself. And now as I build something visible, something maybe even audacious, and something that asks to be taken seriously, all of that old conditioning comes roaring back to me. I'm out here telling the world what I'm trying to do, trying to form partnerships. I'm reaching out to other organizations. I'm talking about creative arts and drama and community and starting a Brave Speakers program for survivors. I'm talking about all of these things as real pathways for survivor healing. And sometimes I've met with a very familiar look. Oh, you do creative arts with women. That sounds cute. We do serious work over here. This has happened to me more than once. And I won't lie, it has cut me to the bone. It feels like being told, go back to your corner. You don't belong here and you don't matter and nothing's going to change my mind. And what makes it hurt so deeply is that it echoes something I've carried for a very long time. Do any of you ever feel this way? Do you ever feel like the story you were taught about yourself somehow leaks into the minds of others when you meet them, as if they were handed the same script about who you are? But here's the truth I keep holding on to. It's not everyone. It's not. There are also wonderful people who say, tell me more, who say, there has to be more than one way to help survivors heal, who say, let's think together. Let's see what we can do together. And I'm getting bolder. I just joined my local chamber of commerce, which may not sound dramatic, but for me it is, because I am not giving up. I'm sticking around. I'm going to keep talking, even though I'm not being asked to speak. I'm going to keep building relationships, even when I'm shaking. I'm going to keep producing Braveheart Speak. I'm going to keep amplifying voices that are so often dismissed and minimized or deemed to be socially unimportant. And I'm going to look the bullies in the face, overt and covert bullies. And I'm going to keep moving toward the work I believe I've been given. I believe women survivors can band together to speak and to create and to make change. And I believe we can dismantle the ways we've been taught as women to compete and silence each other and diminish one another. I believe we can build a new culture of women's empowerment, one that is actually rooted in collaboration and honesty and shared power. This isn't being built so that I can finally stop feeling like an extra. It's being built because I believe something different needs to be created between women. I am exhausted by how often women's organizations use the word empowerment to say the right things, post the right language, adopt the right branding, while simultaneously behaving in ways that closely resemble emotional and psychological harm toward one another. I am tired of hearing people talk about empowerment and never actually experiencing it in their spaces and in their presence. I've spent the last 5 years trying to crack this code, asking myself, why aren't more women leading the kind of change we desperately need in this society? We are living in increasingly frightening times in this country. And I've always wondered if women could truly come together, not symbolically, not performatively, not with default psychological warfare, but honestly and with accountability, what could we do? I've had the privilege of leading women's groups and therapeutic theater programs long enough to know this truth. Women can collaborate. Women can create powerful change together. And this part matters. Every long-term group I've witnessed or led has also struggled with the same destructive pattern. One or two people become upset. There's no direct, courageous conversation. Instead, there's whispering, smearing, passive aggression, childlike, avoidant behavior. Not because women are bad, but because women have rarely been given the structure, the modeling, and the reconditioning required to do something different with one another. Entire groups quietly turn against one or two people, and some women align themselves with the strongest voices out of fear of being ousted. Some stay silent. Some don't even recognize what's happening as wrong or as devastatingly harmful. And some feel completely justified in what they're doing. We learned these patterns early. And you know what's striking? No one really calls it out. No one calls it what it is. In schools, it's dismissed as girl drama. In adulthood, it's minimized as personality conflict. But it has a name. It's called relational aggression. And it's a term coined and explored by Rachel Simmons, the author of Odd Girl Out. And that was one of the most important books I've ever read. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It will open your eyes, not only to what happens between girls, but to what continues to happen every single day between women. This isn't just drama, it is trauma. How can women build anything lasting when this is the default we have been taught, when this is normal and acceptable? And I say that not theoretically, but personally. I have been on the receiving end of this many times. I was on the receiving end of this with one of the groups that I led, and I am still recovering from it. It cut me so deeply in ways that aren't visible, in ways that I don't even have language to name. These are social skills women have learned at a very young age. These are learned behaviors, and these are patterns that far too often go unaddressed. They're normalized, but they are not normal. They're corrosive. They dismantle trust. They fracture communities. And the damage they do often isn't visible to the untrained eye, but it is real. And I know I cannot be alone in this. And I want to be honest with you about something that feels vulnerable to say. I am frightened of women now. Not because I don't believe in women, I do, but because I have seen what can happen when harm feels justified. And when someone decides another woman is a problem or a threat to be neutralized or a surface onto which they can project their pain. I'm frightened of how quietly it can happen, how socially sanctioned it can feel, and how quickly a narrative can form when someone is labeled difficult without anyone ever slowing down to ask, what is actually happening here? I'm working on this fear. I don't want it to harden me. Don't want it to make me cynical or closed. But I would be lying if I said it wasn't one of the hardest parts of building a women's organization. To believe deeply in women and still reckon with the reality that women, like all humans, are capable of causing profound harm when fear, power, and belonging collide. That is why I care so much about creating structure, why I care so much about discernment, about relational skill building, about slowing things down instead of letting the momentum of a group decide who belongs and who doesn't. Because safety isn't created by good intentions alone. It's created by awareness and accountability and courage, especially when it would be easier to look away or just go to the default behaviors. And I'm choosing to keep building anyway. Not because it's easy, but because I believe this is exactly where the work is. So I'm making a promise. I'm not making a claim of perfection, but I'm making a commitment to try. And there's something else I've been noticing. I see women labeling their behavior as badass. I hear this all the time. I'm a badass. She is a badass. But sometimes, no, she's not a badass. She's being aggressive. She's taking power over someone else. She's using strength as an excuse for poor behavior. And there is a difference. Being badass has somehow become shorthand for being intimidating, dominant, sharp, cutting, untouchable. But that's not power. That's posturing. That's often fear dressed up as confidence. Being truly powerful, being truly brave looks very different. It looks like collaboration when competition would be easier. It looks like perseverance when you're misunderstood. It looks like the courage to stand up to people who you know will judge you because you believe in something bigger than their approval. It looks like setting boundaries without humiliating someone else. It looks like discernment, knowing who belongs in your life and who doesn't without smearing those who don't. It looks like the courage to be soft, not puddle on the floor vulnerable, but the kind of vulnerability that allows another woman to see herself in you. The kind that inspires change instead of fear. I could go on and on about what being a badass really means. But what's being portrayed and what's often being enacted is something else entirely. And it's not what I come up against in everyday life when some women approach me. It's not what I observe women doing in the face of others. And here's the part that keeps me up at night. If we could actually deconstruct these patterns, these normalized behaviors we call strength, but actually destroy trust, what could we build? What movements could women lead? What cultural shifts could we influence? What quiet revolutions could begin not through dominance, but through disciplined collaboration? What if we took accountability not to fall back into the same behaviors that fracture and divide? What if we practiced empowerment as behavior and not branding? And what if we refuse to replicate the very hierarchies we say we're dismantling? What could change in our communities, in our institutions, in our politics, in our homes, even subtly, even quietly, even vulnerably? I don't think we've even begun to see what's possible. There's something else I need to say. There's another story I need to tell. In 2022, I led a major devised theater production with 8 women. And the show was called The Women's School of Disempowerment. What I witnessed and what I facilitated was extraordinary. These women stepped up, they committed, they built something together that was funny, sharp, vulnerable, and very honest. It was a fictional school that taught women how to fit in rather than be brave, how to shrink instead of speak, how to please instead of disrupt. It was hilarious, and it was devastating, and it was brilliant. Together, these women created something phenomenal about women's struggles to belong. I saw them collaborate. I saw them take risks. I saw them support one another in ways that felt powerful and rare. And I also saw something else. I had one woman in particular say to me more than once, "I've never experienced women being mean to me. These patterns you're talking about, that's not in my life experience." And yet, that same woman led gossip. She formed alliances. She came to me to talk about another woman behind her back. It's this stuff that makes me stop and think, it's not that she was a villain. It's that she couldn't even see what she was doing. She couldn't even see that the very thing she said didn't exist was moving through her. That's how normalized it is. That's how invisible it can be. And I'll be honest, it enrages me, but not in a destructive way. It enrages me in a clarifying way. We cannot keep pretending this isn't happening way. Because if women who are intelligent, creative, self-aware enough to build a show called The Women's School of Disempowerment, and they can still slip into these patterns without recognizing them, then this isn't about women being bad. This is about unexamined conditioning. And it's time for it to stop. It's time for a new way, not a louder way, not a harsher way, not a more badass way, a braver way, a more accountable way, a way where we look at ourselves as closely as we look at others, a way where we interrupt gossip instead of participating in it, in a way where we name discomfort directly instead of recruiting allies, a way where collaboration isn't a performance, it's a discipline. That's the culture I am trying to build. And I know it's possible because I have seen flashes of it. I have facilitated it. I have watched women create something breathtaking together. The capacity is there. The question is whether we are willing to do the harder internal work required to sustain it. My dream is to work with groups of survivors who want to speak, who want to reach change makers, who want to tell their stories in ways that penetrate hearts and systems, not just echo inside of safe rooms. I want to start with play because play reconnects us to who we truly are, and with creativity because it breaks rigidity and it expands our identity, with building something together, not just any project, but a Voices project, a Brave Voices project. I want to train women to stand in the face of judgment so they can reach the people who are actually ready to listen to them. And I want to help deconstruct the default patterns that keep women divided. And I also know this. Not every woman is ready for this work. Discernment has become my friend lately, not as judgment, but as responsibility. This isn't about some women being bad. It's about recognizing who truly embodies the community I'm trying to build, which is women who have humility, self-respect, respect for others, integrity, compassion, resilience, a capacity for joy and humor and creativity. And these are not soft values. They are foundational ones. Before we end for today, I'm going to leave you with 3 takeaways. Empowerment is not what we say. It's how we behave when things get hard, especially when fear, jealousy, or difference shows up. 2, collaboration requires skill, not just good intentions. Without structure and repair, even well-meaning spaces can reproduce harm. 3, discernment is not exclusion. It's care for yourself, for others, for what you're trying to build. And here's one question to leave you with. When I feel threatened or uncomfortable with another woman, what do I do next? Do I get curious? Do I speak directly? Or do I retreat into stories, alliances, or quiet resentment? As we close today, I want to say, what would it look like to practice empowerment as behavior, not an identity, in your friendships, in your workplaces, in the communities that you participate in or lead? And I want to end by bringing this back to something very simple. Bravery is not a personality trait. It's not confidence. It's not being fearless. Bravery is what you do in the ordinary moments when something inside you says, this matters, and I choose not to abandon myself. It's the conversations you don't avoid. It's the boundaries that you finally name. And it's the space you stop shrinking in. The step you take even while questioning yourself. Sometimes bravery looks like speaking. Sometimes it looks like walking away. Sometimes it looks like staying and doing things differently. If this episode stirred anything in you, I invite you to ask yourself just one question. What is one brave, honest choice I can make today, not to prove anything, but to stay aligned with myself? Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And thank you for practicing bravery in the ways that don't always get seen. Before I go, I want to invite you to join our email list. When you sign up, you'll receive a free resource that will help you define what abuse means to you, what bravery means to you, and some creative ways to quiet those internalized voices so you can grow bigger and braver. But it's not just a resource. It's also an invitation and an opportunity. Inside, you'll find a way to submit your own voice, your own reflections, because this podcast isn't just me talking at you. This is a community we are building, and we can't build it without you. We need your voice in this. And maybe you felt alone for too long. I know that feeling, but I am here now, and we are finding each other. Let's keep finding each other. Thank you for joining me today on Braveheart Speak. I hope today's conversation gave you a spark of bravery and clarity. And if you found value in this episode, share it with a friend who needs a little bravery in their life today. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a moment of truth, resilience, and inspiration. When you subscribe, you'll get a free creative guide to help you define what bravery means to you. You'll also have the chance to submit your own voice, because this isn't just a podcast, it's a community. Want to keep the conversation going? You can connect with me on Instagram and Facebook at the Brave Women's Community Center, on LinkedIn under Lucia Siebertson, or through our website at bravewomenscommunity.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your own stories of bravery. Until next time, keep speaking your truth, standing in your strength, and leading with your brave heart.